TLDR, explain to people what Fedi and Fedimint is, because there's two separate components. Explain the mission.
So the mission, what Fedi is and what Fedimint is. I'll start with the mission because that derives everything else. So the mission for Fedi is to empower communities everywhere. The way we see it is that we want to find a way for communities to be able to take control of their resources, including their money and their data, so that they can effectively take control back from big tech and so on and bring it back into the hands of the community. And as a result, if we can do this and repeat and repeat and repeat for communities, whether they be families, whether they be companies, whether they be villages or towns, in millions of places eventually around the world, we can help level up humanity. That's the mission. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, you start with Fedi as a company. Fedi is the first manufacturer or builder of a federated OS. We don't think this exists, so this is a new category of thing. But you can think of it like an iOS for your mobile phone. It's the thing that makes your mobile phone work, and it manages your personal life, or an Android OS. But a federated OS is an OS for your community. So, of course, that includes custody. It includes being able to use different features or services and so on. But it goes beyond that. You could be able to use data as well. It can integrate with many other services over time. Noster, even AI systems. Why should it be run by big tech? Why don't communities have their own AI, etc.? So this is the grand vision. Now, how is that possible? Well, how are we able to have such a broad vision? Because there was this technology that was invented. The idea came about 3 years ago, and the first line of code was sort of written over 2 years ago, called Fedimint. And it was invented by one of my two co-founders, Eric Sirian. And this is a form of community Bitcoin protocol. It allows you to take Bitcoin, which you would normally run for one person, and run it for a community. You'll be able to, with this platform, you have a number of people within the community, we call them guardians, trusted members of the community, who run this platform on behalf of the community. It allows you to have baked in by default automatically a level of scalability beyond Bitcoin and Lightning. It gives you a level of privacy using a protocol called Xiaomi and eCash. And it gives you, and this is a key element as well, a level of extensibility. So you can extend it with additional features. Basically, it's unlimited in what you can do. So it's the missing piece of the Bitcoin ecosystem. With this, you can think of it as the shield for Bitcoin, Lightning as the sword, and Bitcoin as its base, as the defender. It allows you to effectively do whatever you want to do to be able to scale resources and data for your community and for Bitcoin.
Okay.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, no, there is. So Fedimint is the protocol. Fedi is a company. Could other people create their own companies and compete with you and create products?
Yeah, absolutely. And we hope to see that happens. As I say, like Lightning is a protocol, and there are many companies making Lightning services and products. And we will see those. Now, the way we deal with that is proof of work. So we have an incredible team. We have an incredible set of supporters from within the Bitcoin ecosystem, within the investor ecosystem, but also many of our customers as well come from broad swathes of the world, whether it's we have what we call hyper communities, which are Bitcoiners who are passionate about Bitcoin, but also passionate about parts of the world, whether it be Bitcoin Akasi in South Africa, or Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala, and so on.
Or Bitcoin Bedford.
Or Bitcoin, when you're ready.
We're ready. I know, but I literally just...
You ready for Fedi?
I was like, hold on. Should we have a Bedford Federation? What can we do with this?
Are you ready for Fedi? Then we're ready for you.
All right, well, listen. Go on, you finish.
But it's also beyond that. It's people who don't really think about Bitcoin or money in this sort of day-to-day, but they have to deal with it because of the challenge they're dealing with. So people who are trying to help raise or highlight the plight of people living under the yoke of oppressive regimes or dictatorships around the world. and everything in between. Also, we're seeing it in terms of organizations who want to take personal custody of their treasury and not have to give it to third parties and large multinational organizations and say, well, why do we give it to multiple banks who we are increasingly less comfortable custodying with when we can hold it ourselves? Or our data, why do we have to give it to big tech when we as an organization can bring it back in and manage it ourselves? If we can help with all of that, there's interest there.
So let's run through an example use case, because that's going to be the best way for me to explain them what the challenges I see or the things I've struggled with, and then we can work through that. So talk to me about a specific use case of any federation that you think could set up. Give me a scenario and how it would work, and the reason they would want it.
There's many examples. So for a number of months, we've already been in closed beta with different organizations. I can give you one example. A community of farmers and farmers cooperatives in West Africa. In a number of countries, 5 or 6 farmer cooperatives, 100 to 200 different farms, and obviously there's the farmers and all the employees, etc. Now, right now, they have to buy pesticides and fertilizer, and they buy it at retail. It's incredibly expensive, so they don't buy enough. They don't get good crop yields, and so they earn less money for their land. Now, if there was a way for them to access credit at reasonable rates, they would be able to take on money, buy, and also if they could organize as a community and buy in bulk, they can buy at bulk, get wholesale rates, buy more pesticide and fertilizer, massively increasing their production and leveling up their society. Now, what can be done with that is we can set up a Fedimint federation for that community of different farmers cooperatives and farmers. People can then send capital directly to the different farmers. The farmers can use the Fedi app because the Fedi app includes chat and communication to organize with each other, like a group per cooperative, send value directly within this federation when they're ready to make a bulk order, and then organize for that bulk order, and then pay the suppliers in bulk. Now, instead of having to move around and transfer lots of cash between different parties, and it's taking a lot of time, a lot of hassle, a lot of communication, this can be done easily in seconds. Now, you could say, well, why didn't I use digital cash? But then I'll be paying potentially fees as anywhere from 2% to as high as 30, 40% each transaction.
30, 40%?
For very small amounts.
Okay.
It can be as high because there's a minimum fee, and sometimes it's with minimums, it could be as high as 30, 40% for eCash.
But that must be like...
For digital cash.
That must be like $1, $2 purchase.
Yes, but even the average is 2 or 3%. Okay. Whereas when you're sending, but this still is significant for a significant percentage.
Oh yeah, 2 or 3%.
When you compare to fractions of a percent. Okay. So, and that effectively it still takes value away, which can be used for productive goods.
So all these different cooperatives send their money into the federation, and then they negotiate with the...
No? So the different cooperatives would be part of the federation. The different farmers would be part of the federation. So instead of them having their own wallet, because remember, they could be talking about small amounts of money each, a few $100 maybe of each worth of capital per farmer. Now, let's say the alternatives, there's hundreds of farmers, would they buy a hardware wallet for $50 to $100 each? So then they'll have to understand how to use it. It has to be very simple. Again, it has to be converted to their language. There has to be all of these things that need to be done. With the system we have, it will be multilingual. It will be able to be set up to work and act in the way that they need it for their service without any extraneous elements, because each community will be set up correctly for that community. They'll be paying near zero fees for transferring. And by the use of the Fedimint, it's effectively a multi-sig wallet. So it's when it comes to first-party custody, the best way to back up is first-party with multi-sig. That's complex to do, but if you have a Fedimint, you automatically get that for your community. So you're getting this multi-sig backup of the data without you having to do anything. You have this incredibly simple experience, but a best practice way of backing up as well.
So, what was that?
It's because I'm connected to the screen.
So every farmer would be in the federation?
Every farmer would be in a federation.
Would they be
Exactly.
in? Are there groups like? Do they join like a cooperative and they're cooperatives, or is it just every farmer across all cooperatives are in there?
Every community can set themselves up the way they want to be set up.
Okay.
But in this particular example, you would imagine that there would be, say, 5 cooperatives, and each one would set up a group. Just like you have a WhatsApp chat and there's different groups, there'll be a group for a cooperative, and the farmers who are part of that cooperative will join that cooperative, and they would talk in that group. And then when it comes time to pay, they would send the value needed to make a payment. So they would use it to organize the Fedi app to organize and to handle payments.
Okay, so you, me, and Danny, we're all different cooperatives. Somebody on behalf of us is negotiating the rates for the fertilizer.
Or each cooperative would probably negotiate the rates for the fertilizer as a cooperative.
Okay.
And there's 50, and you, me, and Danny could be 3 different farmers who are part of one of those cooperatives.
I get it.
And then we would join the group within the chat related to our cooperative. We'll talk and agree that we want to buy this fertilizer, bulk buy it. And when it comes time to pay, we would just literally click a button and pay, as opposed to having to transfer cash around, having to organize, having to have village town halls and so on. It can all be organized digitally. The conversation, the payment, and the disbursement, and so on.
And when we pay, do we pay into a central pot that goes out, or do we all pay individually to the recipient?
You would pay in that case a central pot, and then it will go out so that you can bulk pay. So that's one example.
Sorry, one more question on that. And the person we're paying, that we're buying the fertilizer from, do they also have to be in the federation, or can we buy outside of the federation?
They can accept anyone who can set the Lightning payment or Bitcoin on-chain payment can be the recipient of the money, or alternatively. If you could find someone locally who's willing to accept the Bitcoin, like a local entrepreneur or so on, to accept the Bitcoin, and then on behalf of you, give you cash to pay at the point of payment as well.
Okay, so that all makes sense. I get that, and
that's one example.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's lots of ones, and that coordination is super useful, and that coordination helps people actually negotiate better rates. I get that. And if it saves the 3%, that's really good. I mean, I guess like as a technology, the user experience you can solve very quickly. There's still volatility risk on the price. I could argue that the 3% fee is the price you pay to not have volatility. I mean, volatility can go to the upside and to the downside, but it's still going to be a challenge. So if people used Fedi and they were going to save their 3% and coordinate, and then Bitcoin did one of its dumps by 10%, that's a tough situation for someone to go through.
Very.
Yeah.
So there are many solutions to that.
Yeah.
First of all, Fedimint is multi-asset capable. So it's full reserve in the way it works by default. So you would deposit Bitcoin and you'd be credited a certain amount of Bitcoin within the system, within this wallet.
The eCash.
The eCash, yeah. And that can be used within the community. However, if you were to deposit a stablecoin, then you'll be credited a certain amount of that stablecoin instead. So that's possible as well. Third, we can show this later on, but it's extensible, and this is really key. Anybody of the millions of, not the tens of thousands of people who can build smart contracts on multiple chains, but of the millions of people who can write software for Web 2, they can very easily convert and write extensions for a given Fedimint to be able to allow it to do pretty much anything that you could imagine could be done on a website could be done on a Fedimint.
Amazing.
But in a federated manner where you're not trusting one organization, one website, one person. As long as the majority are honest, it continues to run. So you could take that concept, and there was an idea that was initially put forward by Taj Dryja, one of the co-founders of Lightning Network, discrete log contracts with difference. And technically, with a few upgrades to Bitcoin, it could be possible to do it on Lightning easily, but they haven't yet been done, and they hopefully will happen in time. However, that limitation isn't there with Fedimint. So we did a hackathon at the beginning of this year, and one of the submissions, which went on to win, created something called stability pools, which is a way to basically take Bitcoin and you could effectively think about it as depositing it into this virtual USD, or for example, or some other asset, this USD store account until you need it, and then you can withdraw. So you receive payment in Bitcoin, but then you can just quickly just deposit it, and it will be locked to that. It will be stability locked to that value.
Okay.
USD to euro, so on. So what could happen is you receive payment, you lock it to USD until you need it, and then you unlock it back to Bitcoin. It flips things on its head. Bitcoin is used for payments, and Lightning is used for payments because it's available everywhere. It's one standard that everybody knows. It's near instant. It's very low cost. And then you use a stability pool to take your Bitcoin and lock its value. It's still Bitcoin all the way through. There's no bank backing it, but instead of its price being volatile and the amount being constant, while you lock it, the amount is volatile and the price is constant until you need it and you unlock it, because you're okay with that because you just want the price stability.
Yeah.
With some other asset that you want it to be stable against, and then you unlock it and then spend, and you also can partially unlock. So say I receive salary or wage or money from a friend or family, then I immediately lock it. And then when I need to spend, I want to spend $5 of it, I unlock $5 of it and it gets withdrawn out. I mean, in fact, we can show
Just before we do that, can I ask you a question on, if we had the federation set up between the three of us in that cooperative example, so we all put Bitcoin in and get what Bitcoin did, cooperative eCash. To buy off the fertilizer supplier, do they have to accept the eCash or do they peg out to Bitcoin?
they don't have to accept the eCash.
So they can receive payment in Bitcoin from our...
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So when think about a Fedimint as a community-owned Lightning wallet.
Okay.
So from the outside world, it's a Lightning wallet and it can make payments over the Lightning network. It's just that the Fedimint protocol and the eCash protocol handles how the Bitcoin that's been sent to that wallet is apportioned amongst the members of that wallet. And also it handles the ability of people to be able to say, I want to spend. And then what will happen is that eCash is transferred to someone else within the, it can work in two different ways. It can be sent back to the guardians and they can destroy it and send out a certain amount of Bitcoin on chain for equivalent to the amount. Or for Lightning transaction, what technically happens is it's sent internally to someone else who also is running a Lightning node. And then that person, after receiving that, sends out a certain amount of Lightning over the Lightning network to the address you sent. So this is what Lightning service providers do. But normally it's Lightning connection on one side and Lightning connection on the other side. Here, it's eCash on this side and Lightning on the other side. But from your point of view, experientially, it just looks like a Lightning payment. Whether you're sending it to someone else within the Fedimint, or whether you're sending it to someone else on the other side of the world who's got a Moon wallet or a wallet of Satoshi or a Blue wallet or what have you, or to someone else who's also in another Fedimint somewhere else. To you, Lightning invoice pay.
So if we were transacting within the federation,
it will still be a Lightning
it's still
invoice.
Lightning. It's not like a eCash token swap kind of thing. It's still
so what the protocol cleverly does is it recognizes internal and it just does an eCash swap. But from your experiential point of view, you just paid a Lightning invoice.
And for
it would just never fail because it's internal.
Right.
There's no liquidity issues there. And also it will be basically almost probably just free or 0.1 milli Satoshi or something like that. It'll be a tiny fraction of a penny.